Hari Om. It's 7 o'clock. Let us begin.
They know it might feel personal. But what kind of man would I be if I didn't avenge my sister's murder?
Om Sahna Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswati Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kruto Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishwaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Madhavam. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drak Tadrishyam Druktumanasam Drishyadhi Vrittaya Sakshi Drage Vanatu Drishyate. Let us first begin by reviewing the different types of samadhis. There are 6 types of samadhis that the author points out to us. 3 are internal and 3 are external. The 3 internal are actually divided into 2. One is savikalpa, other is nirvikalpa. So internal is divided into 2, savikalpa, nirvikalpa. Similarly, external is also divided into 2, savikalpa, nirvikalpa. But then the savikalpa is further divided into 2 as Drshyanuviddha and Shabdanuviddha. And same thing, external, Drshyanuviddha, Shabdanuviddha. So in total, the author mentioned 6 forms of samadhi. When we speak of samadhi, at the level of savikalpa samadhi, it is called as nididhyasan. Now, this term we have been familiar with because we have heard in our adult study classes or in different pravachans or different yajnas, this topic. So nididhyasan seems familiar. But how is this nididhyasan reached? That is the important point. in order for samadhi or that meditation to be successful, it presupposes certain things. So what it presupposes is the ignorance a seeker has of the self. That ignorance has been removed by hearing the knowledge through the words of a guru. So that is what we call as Shravana. So there was a doubt of, I don't know who is Brahman. If we take a look at this text, before you first time studied, I'm sure you have studied before also this Drshya Vivek, but before you studied the first time, there was a doubt of what is Drshya Vivek, right? It didn't express as a doubt. You don't have to express it as a doubt, but there was a thought. I don't know the topic of Drshya Vivek. There's just a text called Drshya Vivek. This ignorance is the similar type when we say, I do not know myself or I do not know Brahman. Then we go and hear the knowledge which says, you are the Brahman. So we got this knowledge, I am Brahman, that thou art. Drshya Vivek is a separation between the seer and the seen. Like that, we got the knowledge. But then more question comes. How? How am I this Brahman or this Atman? What makes me Brahman? What makes me Atman? How am I that? This doubt comes. Now, those doubts are eliminated or removed by contemplation. So scriptures only provide us with some logic, with some in-depth understanding that allows us to become convinced about this fact that I am Brahman. I am indeed what the scriptures are saying. And once I become convinced, there is nobody who can deconvince me of this idea. If I, memorize the entire Drshya Vivek and I parrot it, I am the Sakshi, which is the Drik. If I parrot it like this, and somebody comes and throws a curveball and says to me, how are you a Drik? You're not the final seer. There is somebody seeing the Sakshi also. And then it causes me a confusion. It brings in more doubts, more questions in my mind. That must tell me that my manan has not been complete. This is a clue for us to know how much I have become convinced about this idea of I am Brahman. There is still some doubt there. That's why I can easily get swayed into other thoughts. But when I know clearly this is this Brahman, then I have understood. But even if I have understood, I still don't experience. I have understood, nobody can deconvince me, but yet my anubhava, my personal experiences, I am still this body, mind, intellect. Then what do? Is then I sit in this samadhi and I assert for myself. Assert meaning I see it for my own experience. I am this Brahman. And there is no other way it's possible. So I give myself that much time and that much of understanding. And when I do, that is the beginning of Savikalpa Samadhi or Nididhyasana. So the topic of this text does not deal much with the manan part. it explains the idea of who am I and what is Atman. It explains the idea of what is this Jagat and who is Brahman. And also explains that whatever happens internal, meaning internal, this Atma is veiled by the two powers. Similarly, external, the Brahman is also veiled by the two powers. In this short way, it explains the problem. And also says that now I have to do separation. I have to do Drshya, Viveka. So therefore, it presupposes, this knowledge that we are studying of Samadhi presupposes that I have understood and become convinced of I am this Brahman, and I also know what Brahman really is. Intellectually, not experientially. And therefore now I'm sitting for this experiential knowledge. If this understanding is there, then what we covered last week was Drishyānuviddha Savikalpa Samadhi. So let me now share a different document of the shloka that we covered. So Kamadhyaha Chittagaha Drishyaha. When one is sitting for this Drishyānuviddha Savikalpa Samadhi, which is internal, what are they doing? They are looking at their thoughts. And if you remember, in the beginning of the text, there was a shloka which said, Kamaha, what was it? Kama sankalpa sandeho, shraddha shraddhe dhriti tare. Like that, the shloka was going. So, Kama, sankalpa, sandeha, shraddha, ashraddha. These are the thoughts that arise in us. So when we are sitting for meditation, whatever thoughts arise within us, if there is a desire for consuming something, or if there is a desire to do something in future, any desire that could be there, they are drishyaha. So we are able to see them. Why? Because in beginning it was explained that they are seen, they are drishyaha, and I am the druk. I, the sakshi, am the seer. So what I must do? Tat sakshitvena chetanam dhyayet. By being a sakshi, chetanam dhyayet, you focus on the consciousness. What do we mean by focus on the consciousness? When I observe the desires that come to mind, at that point, I do not get carried away with what the nature of the desire is, but I focus on the presence that I am there. I am aware. I focus my attention only on this. If a desire comes in the mind of, say, Labor Day weekend. So if the desire is there that, this Labor Day weekend, we're going to go out and have some nice time because weather is also nice and haven't been out. So a party in the forest preserve. If that is the desire, it doesn't matter what you're going to do in the forest preserve. What is important is that you are seeing your desire, and as you are seeing your desire, you are aware of the presence you are. You are focused on you, the awareness, you, the self. And then you are seeing your desires. And as you do that, you are separating your desire from your awareness. And that awareness which you are focusing on, that is your nature. So therefore, continuously keep on thinking about, I am this consciousness, which is enveloped by all the desires, or sankalpa, or sandeha, or shraddha, ashraddha, whatever thoughts come to mind. All I am doing is focusing only on the consciousness, the awareness that I am. I know I am present there. All I am doing is focusing on that presence. This is called as Drshyanuviddha Savikalpa Samadhi. Now we go to the next Samadhi, which is the Shabdanuviddha Savikalpa Samadhi. Antaha, okay, internal. Asangas Satchidanandaha Swaprabho Dvaitavarjitaha Asmiti Shabdavidhoyam Samadhis Savikalpakaha Asangas Satchidanandaha Swaprabho Dvaitavarjitaha Asmiti Shabdavidhoyam Samadhis Savikalpakaha. Now, this is called as Shabda Anuviddha. So, following the Shabda, led by the words from the scriptures, you focus your concentration. What does that mean? So scriptures provide for us the words necessary. So what are the words? So the scripture says, Asangaha. You are unattached, completely detached from everything. Then scripture says, Satchidanandaha. You are Sat Chit Anandaha. Then another word scripture says, you are Swaprabhaha, self-effulgent. Dvaitavarjitaha. You are without any duality, a completely non-dual self. Asmi. So this word asmi has to go with all of that. So therefore, what are we doing in this meditation is we are sitting and saying to ourselves, Asangaha asmi, I am unattached. Satchidanandaha asmi, I am existence, consciousness, bliss. Swaprabhaha asmi, I am of the nature of self-effulgence. Dvaita varjitaha asmi, I am of the nature of non-duality, without any duality. Oh, I am of the nature of, yes, non-duality, correct. So, we are taking the words given to us by the scriptures to know I am that. I am this Atman. Now, how does this differ from the Drishyanuviddha? For Drishyanuviddha, the author told us before that all I am doing is separating the Drshya from the Drik. Sakshi is the Drik. My focus is staying on the consciousness. So this knowledge was provided to me before. So Shastra gave me the knowledge before, and all I am doing in the meditation is only focusing on the knowledge given to me by the Shastra. So I am using my experience there. When karma comes, It is not somebody else's karma. It is not somebody else's desire. It is my own personal desire that I am experiencing. So I'm taking that as an experience, and I am separating the anatma, which is the desire, from atma, which is the awareness. All I'm doing is separating that. So it's my experience. Here, I don't have an experience. When I say asangaha asmi, I am using just the word asangaha, and I am focusing on the understanding of how I am asangaha. There is no karma here coming to my mind. When I talk about I am detached, what desire could there be coming about? If I'm doing this practice as asangaha asmi and a desire comes, I am not barred to say that, oh, I am focusing on Shabdanuviddha Samadhi, so I cannot have Drshyanuviddha Samadhi at this time. If a desire comes, I switch gear to Drshyanuviddha Samadhi. And if the words come, I focus to Shabdanuviddha Samadhi. Whichever way possible, I take my mind to this idea of I am the self. So I am taking recourse to the Shabda of the scriptures and only focusing on those Shabdas. Now, if somebody doesn't know Asangaha, what does Asangaha really mean? Then the whole thing will fall apart. Then they cannot focus on that Samadhi. What if someone says that, I just continue on chanting Asangaham, Asangaham, Asangaham. If I just continue to do that, what happens? Well, you can do that by saying the name of, Brahman. It is good, but it doesn't create the knowledge for us. It then becomes what we call as upasana. And upasana does not lead to the result of self-realization. Upasana only leads to mental purity. Therefore, it is very essential that we know what the Shabda really means. And therefore, in the beginning, we said that it presupposes Shravan and Manan. So in Shravan, we got the understanding of what is Asangaha. In Manan, I understood how I am Asangaha. And in Nididhyasan, in Savikalpa Samadhi, I am merely trying to focus on this understanding of I am Asangaha. Asangaha Aham, or Asangaha Asmi. In this way, I continue to keep repeating this in my mind. Asangaha Asmi, Satchidanandaha Asmi, Swaprabhaha Asmi, Dvaitavarjitaha Asmi, or any other words that you know. We know in Nirvana Shatkam, Adi Shankaracharya ji has given us everything. And then final shloka he says, Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupaha vibhurvyapya sarvatra sarvendriyanam. So like that, those words, we focus, and using those words alone, the understanding of I am the self is flowing through the mind. It's the understanding flowing. It's not just the repetition or japa that is flowing. We have to be very careful in understanding this idea that I am not doing japa of these names. That is not what is meant as Shabdanuviddha. I am flowing the understanding in my mind of what Asangaha means, and I am that Asangaha. So the difference, therefore, between Drshyanuviddha and Shabdanuviddha basically is, one is taking my raw experiences of duality, the raw experiences of me as a jiva, and transforming those into the understanding of I am this Brahman. it is creating what we say a vasana for Aham Brahmasmi, either by Drshya or by Shabda. And then when we take Shabda, I am just saying to myself, I am completely unattached. I am of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. I am Swaprabha. I am self-effulgent. I shine without anybody else requiring to shine. The senses, they shine because the mind shines. Objects shine because the senses shine. Mind shines because of me. So in succession, all of them are dependent on me only. So I am Swaprabha. I am self-effulgent. I don't require anything else to make me shine. And I am without any duality. As this understanding flows, it creates the vasana for I am Brahman. And when this thought continues on for long period of time, so this abhyasa is called as a, it's a continuous practice that has to happen. And when we do this practice, then it will lead automatically to an effortless state, a state therefore we call as nirvikalpa samadhi, where I am no longer having to put an effort to flow the knowledge. The knowledge automatically flows through me because I have become so in tuned with this understanding of I am the self. I have started to see this awareness as my own nature. And this is the nirvikalpa samadhi. So let us now take a look at the next shloka of nirvikalpa samadhi. Swanubhutirasa swada. Sorry. Swanubhutirasa veshad. Drshya shabdavupekshatu. Nirvikalpa samadhi syat. Nivatastita deepavat. Swanubhutirasa veshad. Drshya shabdavupekshatu. Nirvikalpa samadhi syat. Nivatastita deepavat. Swa anubhutihi rasa aveshat. Swa anubhuti, an experience by oneself. You are personally able to experience. And what are you experiencing? Rasa, an essence. And what has that happened? Avesha. You have become completely absorbed in it. So, an absorption in the essence of the nature of the self. And when that happened, Drshya, Shabda, Upekshatu, you have dropped the Drshya, which is the Kama, Sankalpa, Sandeha, all of that you have dropped. And also you have dropped the Shabda, meaning Asangaha, Satchidanandaha, Swaprabha, Dvaita Varjita, all of those also have been dropped. When this happens, Nirvikalpa Samadhi Syat. That is called as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And how is that? Nivataha, Nivata Sthita Deepavat, a lamp which is placed, which does not move because there is no wind. So the flame of the lamp doesn't move because there is no wind. This is the example. All right. So let us analyze this idea a little more. From savikalpa to nirvikalpa is an effortlessness. We cannot put effort into it, because if you could put an effort to it, that means what? You took yourself to nirvikalpa samadhi. And if we take ourselves to nirvikalpa samadhi, ego remains. Because who is saying that I took myself to nirvikalpa samadhi? The ego is saying that I took there. So in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, it is an effortless absorption in oneself. This is one understanding. Now, when nirvikalpa samadhi happens, the word uses rasa avesha. And there's a shloka in the Upanishads which says that raso vaisaha, that Brahman is filled with rasa, and by that rasa anandaha bhavati, one gains lots of bliss. And this bliss is not an experience of eating some object and having that bliss that I have enjoyed it, because it is derived from the object. It is coming internally, but the object was the medium for it. Here, the bliss experienced is not by the thought of I am Brahman, but it is by the absorption in the knowledge that I am Brahman. So the bliss that is coming about is my own nature, and the absorption of the mind in that bliss. Mind is no longer recognizing itself as I am an individual. Our Gurudev, would say it very nicely. The explanation he would say is, when the last thought has been thoughted and no thoughts are thoughting, this is the samadhi. This is the nirvikalpa samadhi state. So basically what means is that the thoughts which were thoughting or coming to us, those thoughts were of my effort to consistently keep the knowledge that I am Brahman. But when that stops, I have now become absorbed in my own nature. This is the idea of nirvikalpa samadhi. That means what? When we practice samadhi, when we are doing savikalpa samadhi, one must experience joy in it. Without having joy, and we sit and do meditation, how meaningful is it? Because the scripture says, I have to practice the thought of asangaha aham, satchidanandaha aham. But in that, my mind is so disturbed, and my facial expression from outside, people are looking at me, taking selfie of me, that this person is more distressed in samadhi than he's outside. If I am not having joy when I practice samadhi, then samadhi is not becoming fruitful for me. The mind has to experience the joy, but mind doesn't have to get carried away with the joy. That is something different. What happens is that the joy comes because the mind is peaceful, but then we think that that peace is our nature, and we stop there. We should not stop there. We should continue on. So the another thought is that there is this rasa, and one has become avesha, one has completely entered into it, where they no longer are seeing themselves as an individual. The mind is no longer seeing itself as a mind. That is one. And other thought is, when we are sitting, when you sit for meditation, there is this awareness within us that I am the one sitting, correct? We have not lost the contact with the world. We still know I am this person sitting in this meditation. That has not been lost, correct? That means what? I am aware of me, the individual who has connection with the body, the mind, the intellect. That has not gone. Even though I may be practicing the effort of aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi, still that feeling is not gone that I am jiva. In this swanubhuti, the whole world starts to vanish from us. We start to lose the awareness that I am a body. We also lose the awareness that I am the mind. We also lose the awareness of intellect. And all I am aware of is I am present. All I'm aware of is that there is full presence of the self. But whose self? I don't say it is myself. Because how can I say it is myself? Because it's just presence. What is saying the I-ness and minus is the mind. The mind has the ability to give this I-ness and minus. So therefore, when I sit in this state, there is all of that has been lost. And all I am focused on is, all there is a focus of is this focus of aham brahmasmi. Nirvikalpaha samadhisyat. And Gurudev mentions in Bhagavad Gita, what is this nivata sthita deepavat? There is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita which addresses to this idea that when the flame does not flicker, if you have seen it, that in this world, whenever there is a little bit of wind, you see that the flame is moving. But Gurudev describes, and he says that when there is no wind, the flame reaches up. The flame is moving up. Because it is so still, the flame is moving up and it is going closer and closer towards the knowledge. That is how Gurudev explains in Bhagavad Gita, this idea of complete stillness, meaning the absorption in the mind is so strong that the mind is only absorbed in knowledge. There is no other thing. Now, if you also remember, there is another very famous story of Puja Gurudev and Swami Tapovan Maharaj, where Gurudev said, if Brahman alone is the focus or a goal, why do I need to worry about the Maya or this Jagat? Why do I need to worry? And then Swami Tapovan Maharaj may not have said anything at the time. The next time, Swami Tapovan Maharaj told Gurudev, why don't you please go and get me some water? Okay. Gurudev went to the river down. He brought some water, but he brought it in a glass. So Swami Tapovan Maharaj said, you do not know how to follow orders. I told you to just get me water. I did not tell you to get me glass. And then Gurudev said, but how can I bring water without glass? Similarly, how can that experience of Brahman be known without the mind being present? So therefore, in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind's presence is like that glass which is holding the water. If the mind were not there, we would not know what that awareness is. Because Brahman itself has no transaction. Once one becomes Brahman, then they're completely free from everything. There is no birth, there is no death. So they'll become one. But how does that expression be known? It cannot be known unless and until there is something that gets objectified to make it feel presence. If a pen is, we say Vedanta that pen exists in Brahman. Correct? Like Vedantic way to say it is that when pen exists, it is existing in Brahman. But then another way also to look at it is that when the pen exists, it manifests the existence aspect of Brahman. If I remove the pen, we would not be able to know that there is an existence aspect. But now when the pen comes in our cognition, we know that existence is present. So it gives the manifestation of Brahman. Similarly, in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, mind is present, but the mind is no longer the same mind. So what we call is that the mind is a falsified mind. The mind is no longer the jiva mind which says, I am ignorant. The mind is no longer filled with the vasanas of I do not know Brahman, or I do not know the Atman. That thought has been erased, or that experience itself has been erased, and therefore mind very well knows I am the reflection of that Brahman. My reality is Brahman, but when it expresses through mind, it is merely expressed as a reflection. But this we don't understand in Samadhi Avastha. In the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that's not experienced. Because in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is no mind. So to say, there's no mind. Okay. So this is Antaha Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay. Now, the external Bahya Savikalpa Samadhi first, and then Bahya Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So we'll take one shloka, and then if there are any questions or thoughts, we'll see those. हृदीव बाह्यदेशेऽपि यस्मिन् कस्मिंश्च वस्तुनि समाधिराध्यः सन्मात्रात् नाम रूप पृथक् कृतिः. हृदीव बाह्यदेशेऽपि यस्मिन् कस्मिंश्च वस्तुनि समाधिराद्या सन्मात्रात् नाम रूप पृथक् कृतिः. So, Hridi Iva. how we did it in heart, meaning how we were doing it internally, we do the same thing. Bahya deshe api. We do the same thing externally also. Now, when it says when we do this externally, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are always have to do it with our eyes open, or we do it where external things are um, like we have to be present in the world, we have to be in the waking state. It has no connection whatsoever like that. So we should not think that when we say hridi means I have to close my eyes, sit down, and then I meditate. And when I say bahya deshe, I have to be alive, walking around, and then I have to do samadhi. It doesn't mean that. So what does it mean? It means is that how we did it internally with the kama, sankalpa, sandeha, etc., all of them, yasmin kasminscha vastuni, whatever objects we come across. So it could start with you observing an object, but then seeing the object, the focus shifts to meditating on the Brahman. So whatever object may be, I was I was hearing a video where it was saying that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he used to go into meditation, like he used to just go into trance by viewing any object. Like I think there was some object that somebody had was an umbrella, and they uh, opened the umbrella and opened or closed the umbrella, and that made Sri Ramakrishna go into samadhi, because his thought was that you open your heart like the umbrella to have the shelter of Brahman. And just by observing the object, his mind reached to that state of samadhi. Now, for him, it may have been like just a natural thing, because that absorption in Brahman was so much. The absorption in the understanding was so much. But for us, it is a practice. If we talk about Drshya anuvidya, then it is a practice. So basically what we are doing is taking yasmin kasminscha vastuni, whatever object that comes to me, a book came to me, what do? Sanmatrat, that which is sat, from that sat, nama rupa prithak-kritihi, separate the name and the form, and do the same thing as was done in hridi, as was done internally. So what did we do internally? We separated the desires from me, the sakshi. In this case, we separate the nama rupa from asti bhati priyam. As it was mentioned previously, that asti bhati priyam is with Satchidananda and nama rupa is with the Jagat. So all I am doing is my observation of the world takes me to the nama rupa, but then I separate that nama rupa and I focus on asti bhati priyam. Again, this has to do with experience. My individualistic experience of how I perceive the world. Now, do I have to look at the book for me to do this process? No, I don't have to look at the book. I could be having my eyes closed, sitting in meditation, and I take whatever object, yasmin kasminscha vastuni, meaning an object that is dear to me, likable to me, I start with that object. So if I like, Harry Potter books. Then I start with that and I separate the names and form from the book and I focus on the Asti Bhati Priyam. If I like, if I like pav bhaji or rasgulla or whatever different food I like, I focus on that food, separate the nama rupa, and focus on the asti bhati priyam. When I focus on priyam, I'm not focusing on the joy that the object is giving me. That is not the idea. I am focusing on the aspect of ananda that is my nature. So I'm not becoming so desirable about enjoying the object. I am focusing on the bliss of myself through that. That is the idea of asti bhati priyam. It is made aware. I make it aware, and I am the one which is giving it the bliss. So in this way, I focus on the Satchidananda Rupa and separate the Nama Rupa from the object. How is this different from Antaha Drshyanuvit? Is basically in Antaha, I am taking the desires of the mind. I'm taking the thoughts of the mind. These, I'm not taking thoughts of the mind, I'm taking objects of the world. How is that different? It is different is I have allowed the objects of the world to enter the mind, and those objects now I am separating. With the desires, it is my internal experience that I am having. In that, the desire could be of enjoying the rasgulla. But here it is not the desire of enjoying the rasgulla. Here is the object rasgulla, where you separate the whiteness, the juiciness, that is the nama rupa, and you only focus on it is made aware by the consciousness, by me, and it is dear, it is desirable. It is desirable because of me. It is not desirable in its own nature. So in this way I separate. This is Bahya Drshyanuvidya. Okay. So we must focus a little more and think, and we will take up this idea again a little more with our next session. Any thoughts anybody has or any questions?
Dhirenji, I understand that within the concept of seeing, where you are witnessing the thoughts, but the shabda, you said you're not doing the japa, you are absorbing the concept of the japa, the whatever, the description of self, whatever. I'm Atma, whatever.
Mm.
That's a little hard to comprehend. How can you, take that, witness the wisdom or whatever? How can you do that?
So when we have studied these words related to asangaha or nirvikalpaha or nirakaraha, they mean certain understanding in that connotation. So whatever we have understood about Brahman from those words, using those words, we focus our attention on Brahman that way. So if asangaha means unattached, so my concept goes to, the mind goes to this thought, I am completely unattached. So that word is driving me there. Now, in which context have we studied this, that I am asangaha? So I am asangaha from sthula, sukshma, karana, shariraha. So if like that I have studied, then automatically my thought will come. So I am not sthula, sukshma, karana, shariraha, but I am other than that. So I'm asangaha, I'm completely unattached. Or I'm asangaha from the three avasthas. So Jagrat, Swapna. So in this way, the Shabda has given us a connotation of what is Brahman, sorry, not Brahman, what is Atman, myself, and using those words, I take my mind to the self.
So are you witnessing that knowledge?
Yes. You're making that knowledge very strong. You're practicing that knowledge. Yes, Sumaji, go ahead.
Hari Om Dhirenji. As I understood what you were mentioning, so for example, I'm trying to practice this throughout the day. Every second, every minute, what I speak, what I do, I'm constantly observing my thoughts. Now, when I talk about that, does it mean that I'm practicing Drishyanu with the Savikalpa? Because I'm constantly watching how my thoughts are going up and down. What am I doing? Is that how you define it?
When you're watching your thoughts, is your mind absorbed in I am the self, or is the mind focused on I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that? I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have been aware of this, I should have done this. I will do this, focus on next time, I will make sure that this will work next time better. What is the idea of observation?
Observation is, for example, am I speaking the right thing? Am I analyzing the right thing? Am I contemplating the right thing? Am I self-reflecting the same thing, the right way? So constant awareness of my thoughts and how they're traveling. So do you classify that as Drishyanu with the Savikalpa? Or it's way lower in the ladder? How do you define, where do you define that?
I would say this is more of a mental reflection. This would not fall under the classification of samadhi. And the reason why I think is because when we say samadhi, the attention goes to the self, the consciousness. From this is the mind being led to consciousness. And if you answer yes to that, then you are doing samadhi. But if you say that it is more of how I am connected with my thoughts, how I should improve my thoughts, then it is still that individuality that is connected, trying to make itself better.
I have a question here then. So if I say I'm the witness to my own thoughts, I'm just the Brahman, I'm witnessing all my thoughts. So now if my thoughts are going astray, I need to control it, right? So if I'm just a witness, I'm trying to comprehend that.
So who is this I that is observing? When you say
it's
I am the one,
Sakshi, the witness, right?
Okay, so you say are Sakshi, right? So if a Sakshi is observing, then why does a Sakshi worry about controlling those thoughts? Because Sakshi is a witness. Why does witness need to worry how the thoughts are getting carried into whichever direction? May the most vulgarest of the thought comes to mind, or may the most saintliest of the thought come to mind. A Sakshi will not be bothered at all by any of it. Even if the vulgarest thought comes, the Sakshi will say, it is not me.
Yeah, it does not get affected.
But a sadhak one who is a seeker may not like that. If the vulgarist thought comes, will say, how can I have this vulgarist thought? I need to do more chitta shuddhi. I need to do some more japa. I need to do some more other kind of practices. And with that, I can make my mind pure.
So if I sort of separate out my sakshi here and the sadhak here, so I'm trying to draw the bridge between my sadhak. I have the bridge connected between the sadhak and the sakshi constantly, but working on my sadhak there to fix my mental thoughts. Is that how you define? Sorry, I had too many questions.
So a sadhak will have this idea, this understanding that I need to improve my mind. I need to make my mind pure. I need to make the sadhana stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Till this notion is there, we are a sadhak.
Mm-hmm.
Once that notion is lost, we are practicing sakshi bhava. Because sadhak is still holding that ego with him that I have to do this. I have to improve myself. A sakshi has even lost that and says, I'm just a witness.
Mm-hmm.
So in that state of meditation, there will be no, there's a way that we says that whatever thought comes, let it come. And whatever is going, do not hold them back.
Mm-hmm.
So let that be a flow. We do not create a dam by our thoughts saying that I should not let this thought pass by, but I should let this thought pass by. When I do that as a dam, it is more of a self-purification, mental purification practice. When I just allow it to flow, then it is me being a witness. Then it doesn't matter. And because I am being a witness, my concentration is not on what is flowing. My concentration is on the self. When the water is flowing, say the water is flowing through the gutter, the sewage, all that water that is flowing is so bad. But if my focus is on the flow, my focus is on that that one entity, then it wouldn't matter to me what is flowing. I'm only focused on that. But if I'm focused on the dirt in the
impurities,
if I'm focused on that, then I will be bothered that all this sewage is going through this. I should do something to make sure that this place is cleaned.
Thank you.
I have a thought. I am thinking like when I think doing the seat of meditation, whatever destruction comes into me, I think as a Drshya. And Drshya is illumined by the self. Why should I bother about it? I should bother about myself only. Is that the correct interpretation?
Yes. So I should only be focused on the self. Whatever drishyas are.
Not the Drshya. Drshya illumined by self. However, I shouldn't be involved with that.
Correct.
That is the way I should meditate.
Yes.
I am not the Drshya. I am self alone. That is the mental attitude I should be in the seat of meditation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hari Om Dhirenji.
Hari Om Shri Ji.
Question for you. So when you mentioned in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there are two things going on, right? At one level, you're saying there is no mind at all, but on the other level, the mind has already kind of realized that it's a reflection of Brahman, and there's an effortless dissolution, so to speak, which is why we say there is no mind. So is there like is there no mind in the sense that it has dissolved, or is there a recognition that the mind is a reflection of Brahman, and it kind of is a, how do you reconcile that notion?
So the idea mentioned before, that idea that I was mentioning about that mind is say that thought again, because I kind of lost that idea. But I had an example in mind, which I know I didn't want to share. Well, let me share the example first. There is a sugar. Okay, you take a little bit of sugar and you put it and mix it in the water, a glass of water, and then you drink that glass of water. Okay? You're going to have a taste of sugary water, which doesn't really taste good, actually. I've tried it many times. So then you take a bucket of water, okay, and then you take the same amount of sugar there, and then you mix it. And now you have the sip of that water. If the sugar quality is good, you may get a little bit of taste that there may be sugar. Or if you have a good senses, then you may pick up. Now you take that and you, the same amount of sugar, you put it in a pond or you put it in the ocean. Can we say scientifically that there is no sugar? No, because scientifically the molecules of sugar are there.
Yes.
But the vastness of water is so much that it's diluted. Correct? In this similar way, the mind, when is in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, that mind is no longer observing itself as the individual having the experience of the bliss. The mind is simply focused on the vastness of the ocean where it is. And because of that, it doesn't recognize that it is there. Mind has no presence or awareness that I am present. So it is just a reflecting medium where it is just there. Another way to think about it is that, you know, if you are seeing your reflection in the mirror and you got so absorbed in that reflection that you started thinking you are the reflection, you're not you. But that is because you were absorbed out of ignorance. Now you focus on yourself. You focus on this idea. You just keep staring at the mirror, but you tell yourself, I'm not the one in the mirror, but I'm the one outside. I'm not the one in the mirror, but I'm the one outside. Continuously keep doing that. Your awareness of who you are will change back. The reflecting medium didn't have to be broken. The reflecting medium didn't have to change. So basically what happens therefore in Nirvikalpa Samadhi is that there is a mind which is present, but that mind is no longer the same mind as the mind that was before. And that is why we call it as the falsified mind in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. If we say that there is no mind in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then that would mean that that experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi is equal to deep sleep. Because in deep sleep also, there is no mind, but there is also, I do not know. But in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is an experience of, I know I am present. That is the only difference. So this is how a distinguishment is made, that mind is present, but it's just not that mind is now observing the vastness of the Brahman instead of observing itself as limited. As how one would say that I'm observing myself as the reflection instead of my observing myself as me.
Yeah, I got one thing on that. Shloka 27, you said here we allow the object to enter your mind and separate its names and forms. Now, at that stage, do you recognize that object? And does the object have to be still present? Like what I'm saying, does the object have to be still? What if it's a moving object disappears? Do you still have that? Does it depend on the object? Is my question.
No, because it says yasmin kasminscha vastuni, whatever may be the object. The idea is that the object was a catalyst, and once that object entered our mind, it just gave us the idea of what that object was. But after that, I don't hold on to what the object is doing. I don't care if the object is in action or if the object is without action, stationary. All that matters is when the object enters the mind, I separate the names and form and only side with Asti, Bhati, and Priyam.
And you may not, eventually you may not be aware that object is there.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
All right. So we will conclude for today, and then more further thoughts if we have, we can check those next week. First, happy Labor Day weekend and have a fun time this whole week, and stay safe. Let's do our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om Dhiren.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Dhirenji.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.